G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force.
Hey guys. Hello, gorgeous. Going back to one of my favorite decades for this comic review, the 80s. I was a huge G.I. Joe fan when I was growing up. I never missed the cartoon, I had a bunch of the toys, and I also loved the Marvel comic G.I. Joe Real American Hero. In 1986, with G.I. Joe riding a huge wave of success, a second comic was introduced at Marvel, G.I. Joe Special Missions. I remember back then trying to read a few issues of it, but I just couldn't get into it because it was so different from the main comic, which was a blend of cartoonishness and real-world military. Special Missions was pure military, and my young, thrill-seeking mind needed something a little lighter and more fun. I recently picked up the IDW trade paperback digital releases of Special Missions, and wow! I am totally blown away by this comic. This is the G.I. Joe comic I've been looking for so long, and there it was right under my 10-year-old nose in 1986. Now I'm able to appreciate so much more the real-world grit that Larry Hama put into this title. While he had to adhere to a lot of Hasbro's requests for the main comic book title, because it was mainly intended to be a children's toy commercial, he had a lot more freedom on the Special Missions title. There aren't any obligatory vehicles being thrown in just for the sake of selling a toy, and the characters feel like real soldiers. And that's because Larry Hama is a real soldier. He served in the U.S. Army from 1969 to 1971 during the Vietnam War as a firearms and explosive ordnance expert. His experience in the military with real soldiers as his brothers and sisters gives Special Missions an authentic military voice. And it doesn't care if you don't understand what all the abbreviations and lingo means. They include a little star and clarification at the bottom of the page, and there are a lot of them. I actually love how many of these insider military terms are in this comic. It's so rare to read a comic that just doesn't give a damn if you don't understand what's being said. There's the definition, so do the work and figure it out, maggot! But Larry wasn't just a soldier. He also studied judo, archery, art, and acting. He's a modern-day Renaissance man whose work is far too often overlooked when the greats of comic book writers are being discussed. He's a warrior and a poet, a very rare combination in the entertainment industry, not to mention in the world in general. As a writer, Larry is perfect for such a diverse cast of characters as the Joes, the Cobras, and the original characters that he created himself. It's very rare to read a comic, either new or old, that has this combination of heart, soul, humor, wit, charm. And Special Missions is Larry at his best. While the cartoon and some of the comics dealt with sci-fi scenarios, this is everyday real-world soldiering. They're not adventures, they're missions, and the Joes tackled them as such. Just another day at the office. I'll talk about the first 7 issues in this video, which are collected in IDW's Volume 1 of Special Missions. Starting off is a mini-story which was originally included in issue 50 of the main G.I. Joe Marvel title. It deals with a group of terrorists who took a plane hostage, so the Joes are sent in to save the day. Special Missions immediately shows how much more mature the tone is than the cartoon or the main G.I. Joe comic title, when they show you the bodies of the news crew that the terrorists killed in order to impersonate them. While there were deaths in the main comic title, they were few and far between and handled in a much more theatrical way. This is real-world stuff. The plane lands, and while the Joes are sneaking aboard during refueling, one of the terrorists executes a hostage, a stewardess, to tell us this ain't no after-school cartoon. The stakes are real here, and there's no such thing as a perfect mission. I won't give away how the mission goes down, but I will say it's a very great story of ingenuity, adaptability, and just true grit. A lot of these stories are about moral ambiguity and following your heart instead of your patriotism. These came out in the 80s during the height of the Cold War, so it's natural for the October Guard, the Russian counterpart to G.I. Joe, to show up in a few issues. They appear in issue 1, which has a great moral story about loyalty to country versus loyalty to family. Issue 2 is one of the best stories I've read in any comic, period. The Joes have to make a deal with the devil, a former Nazi, in order to try to avert a catastrophe. It shows you just how difficult having honor is. Anyone can keep a promise to a nice person. It takes a soldier's strength, focus, and conviction to keep their word to a piece of crap. Issue 3 is a prime example of a story that isn't your traditional beginning, middle, end adventure. There's no happy or sad or even bittersweet ending. It's just another day in the life of a soldier, and sometimes soldiers don't even know what the mission was all about. Issue 4 features Lifeline, the Joe's pacifist medic, and how Leatherneck feels about having a pacifist on the team. The Russians are back and racing the Joes to find the black recording boxes from a Cobra jet with valuable information inside. It's a great tale of don't judge a book by its cover, not just concerning Lifeline, but some river pirates that show up as well. Issue 5 is awesome. While on the surface it may seem like a rehash of Real American Hero issue 34, Shakedown, where Ace and Wild Weasel faced off in a dogfight, this one actually pays tribute to the crew members who maintain the aircraft, and what can happen if you don't respect the people who keep your bird in the air. Issue 6 is the only one from Volume 1 that directly ties into Real American Hero. It takes place right after issue 61 of that comic, and tells the side story of how Outback got back to the pit, the G.I. Joe headquarters. Special Missions is a great place for character development for the more obscure Joes, such as Outback, who got lost in the shuffle in the main title. And issue 7 is a pretty low-stakes tale, which I appreciate in a comic like G.I. Joe that deals with saving the world so often. It's a simple story about what the Joes need to go through in order to place a bug in one of Cobra's buildings. If you're a Joe fan and you've tried to get back into it, but you feel as though you've outgrown the cartoon or the original Real American Hero comic, you owe it to yourself to check out Special Missions. There are so many old cartoon and comic book properties that are being rebooted and made more mature and edgy. Well, G.I. Joe's already been there, done that in 1986 with Special Missions. I was really impressed by the first 7 issues, and I'm really excited to see more of these morally hard-hitting, low-key missions. Got a comment about G.I. Joe Special Missions? Scroll down and go to town. And to join the Nerd Tribe, hit subscribe.